Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 52 of Casual Watch Talk, our second of the new year.
All right, 52? Number 2 for the big 21.
Exactly, and it seems like we need at least 200 episodes in order to get our own Swatch collaboration like the guys over at Scottish Watches.
Yes. We're on it. I'm drawing up, I'm doodling now.
I really like their Swatch one, but as you've warned me in the past, be careful with my Swatch purchases because,
that's right.
Well, it's funny actually. This week there has been a massive release from Swatch. They released 2 more of there's a graffiti artist called Keith Haring. Do you know his work?
I've heard of him.
It's like it basically outlines of people, and there's also like an outline of a dog, like an anthropomorphic dog,
Right.
He's very famous in the 90s New York graffiti artist, and you'll see him a lot. Unfortunately, passed away in the mid-90s, I think, but you'll see his work used a lot. Anyway, Swatch did a very famous collaboration when he was still alive, and if you've got that original set of watches, I think the full set is worth about $3,000 because very few survived because they were Swatches.
And
they're just made of that like plastic. But anyway, they released 3 this week, Mickey ones, and it was quite clever as Swatch because they made them boutique only. You couldn't buy them online.
Okay. Very Swatch Omega. Good.
And I tell you what, I was in Florida at the time. I'm back in California this week, but honestly, I had like the number for the local Swatch shop, and I was like, should I go and get them? Should I go and buy them? And then I kept thinking to myself,
I mean, you're getting a bigger place in Florida. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean,
yeah, they were the spare bedroom, the Swatch Museum.
Right, in the Swatch Museum. Yes, welcome to where the magic happens. In the Swatch Museum.
I had to resist. They look so cool, but I just had to resist.
That's funny
because I wouldn't wear a Swatch. Cool. I like them because of the art that's on them, but I wouldn't like normally wear a Swatch, I don't think. Although they've got a military one which looks pretty cool. Oh god, I'm talking myself into it. Anyway, enough about that. Sorry. How have you been, Chris?
Is it in the cart now? Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm pretty good. Doing good. It was we got out and we're helping the some friends move in the way that you have them hire movers and you just try to stay safe during a pandemic. But other than that, doing good.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's kick it off with... That's what should be my watch obsession, but it wasn't. But let's kick it off with the watch obsessions. Right. Do you want to have a go first? Yeah,
I was thinking about it. It's not... I guess it's going to be a continuation obsession, but it is really selling my watch, selling one of my watches. And I think it's the only thing I could really come up with for an obsession, and I want to kind of talk about it because we mentioned forums in the past where you can sell watches, and this one kind of struck me. I looked into selling it on Chrono 24. This is my Neo Vintage Bell & Ross 144 GMT. For those who follow me on Instagram, Everyday Mastery, and have heard me talk about this obsessively. So I was... you had mentioned Chrono 24,
yep.
and you had mentioned your sales in the past of how easy it was, how you felt safe, etc. I went over to Chrono 24, and I had an account there to do my searches on other watch obsessions that I've done. I clicked on the sell a watch. I had a handful of really good photographs that I set up to take on my setup here. I was then greeted with what is your birth date? And so I then gave them my internet birthday because I don't give people my real birthday. And I was like, okay, cool. So start adding details about your watch. I was like, okay, this is all good. So I added, pictures in the description and that it was, tested and this sort of thing. And it comes with these extra links, blah, blah, blah. I got that all sort of buttoned up and I hit next. And it asked me for a lot more information. And I was like, okay. So it asked me again, name, address, phone number, date of birth again. And then I clicked next, and then it started to ask me about financial information. And I was like, okay, I get it, because they have the escrow account, and they want to do a safe transfer directly in your checking account. I get this. Understood. And then I clicked next, and it wanted me to upload a picture of my ID.
I can't remember if I did that, I might.
Yeah. And again, I understand this is how they gain trust, but IT admin speaking, if they have my name, my address, my date of birth, my ID, and my financial information, and God forbid any of that information got leaked in some sort of hack, you're done.
Yeah.
It's over. All of your financial information. I mean, no. That would be everyone would be signing up for alerts and getting alerts when accounts got opened in your name, these sorts of things. So I backed off, and I guess this is maybe, again, and I'll admit it, this is maybe the IT admin paranoia, but geez, that's a lot of personal information to trust them with.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they could get hacked as easy as, if Experian or whatever it was could get hacked over here, and
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have stuff in place. I mean, this is, I'll it's an SSL. So, it's a secure certificate site. It's got all this safety stuff on it. I totally understand. But I'm just selling a watch privately.
Yeah.
I'm not. If I was a dealer and I had to if I was a dealer and I had to give them my EIN number as a dealer, no problem. That's no big deal. That's a company. We have protections against that. You're doing legitimate business, and I've had to do that as a company when you're selling stuff. Okay, yeah, here's my EIN. Here's our business address. Here's our articles of incorporation. That's completely normal. But to sell one, I was very am I going to use this again? Is this some, am I going to be serial flipping $3,000 luxury watches?
Yeah, I had to actually register for an EIN number to ship that Omega Speedmaster that I had,
right?
Because they wouldn't let me ship it out of the country, which was just ridiculous. If I'd known that, I would have had to have gone to that level, but it was already at a UPS depot by that time. It was halfway. I just would have said no international, only sold to the US.
Yeah, only US. Yeah. So again, this is my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of Sam's, but I just want to be clear. There is safety there. I'm sure they're vetted and safe, and I'm sure they have professionals and they have set it up to be as safe as possible. But it just for me, it just comes down to that amount of information in a bucket someplace is just too much of a risk for the one time.
Yeah.
Or 2 times that I might use their service. Now, I absolutely, on the flip side of that, I will say, because they have had to, because they've asked me for all that information, now I feel way better about buying a watch on the site.
Yeah.
Because now I know that, what are you going to, you've got all that information that confirmed, okay, this person is the, and all company information and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, purchasing on the site, that makes me feel a lot better. But yeah, selling for me, so that kind of put a kibosh on it. And to make a long story short, I have a long-standing eBay account with 100% satisfaction going back, 12 years. So I just listed it on eBay and did what you said, Sam, which was just for US only. I'm just going to sell it in the United States. I'm going to wear, it's complex enough to worry about state and local taxes, I'll stick with that versus some sort of export import deal.
I shipped something this week that goes to their eBay International Hub thing, which seems to work okay. But I wonder whether Chrono 24 might be in some trouble with this eBay Authenticate, because I'm noticing that a lot more on watches. I've been flirting with the Grand Seikos again. I think I was talking about this last week.
Yeah. But well, to follow up on that, my watch will qualify for that. So right. I'll tell you how that goes. So it's got the verification logo on it and everything. So from what I understand, when it gets sold, I'll receive a direction from eBay to send it to an independent dealer for authentication.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to document on the podcast.
Yeah, so I'll have to follow up with you guys, tell you how that went. But that's the obsession for this week.
Yeah, I've been still obsessing about Grand Seiko a bit as well. I've been looking on eBay. Some of them do. A lot of them are maintaining their price. Some of the divers, like you pointed out, especially the one that does look a lot like a turtle. After you said it, I started thinking about it. That one seems to be up and down in price as well. But my true watch obsession, I'm still liking the idea of that Formex. Formex did a slightly smaller version of their Essence watch at 39mm. Formex is this one where it's got the sort of suspended watch. It's got a shock absorber built into the watch case. I just like the look of it. I wish I could see one in person though, but honestly, with us moving from California to Florida, I've had to really curb my enthusiasm about watches because furniture has been the key. And
right.
We were joking about this the other day. I think it was a couple of podcast episodes where it was like, we know about watches, but we would go to YouTube for other things like knives. Like we went to look for a decent knife and I had no idea what I was looking at. Like,
yeah, that's right.
So you've always got to have that in the back of your mind when you're reviewing watches or talking about watches, that some people, it might be their first time. They're like, okay, I know a lot about this subject, but I don't know a lot about watches.
Yeah. I just want some professional. Just give me a professional advice and send me on my way, kind of thing. Yeah, it's always good to do that. Like if you're the first time joining us on the Casual Watch Talk podcast, you should definitely check out the Facebook group.
Absolutely.
And also realize that we're just casual about cool watches, and we're not really we're not too wound up about it, which is what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. I was also joking this week that I've been struggling to get YouTube content out consistently just with the move and things like that. One of the videos that has done extremely well recently, and I think it's because of the pandemic, is I did one that was resizing an Invicta Pro Diver bracelet.
Okay.
And I tell you, I was joking with a friend of mine who's also a YouTuber, Ben from Ben's Watch Club. Shout out to him. I was saying that I could just make Invicta content because it seems like there's like a lot of money, but I would never sell my soul to do that. I do the channel as a hobby, not as a money maker. But you could certainly do a plenty of Invicta videos. But anyway, enough about that.
Well, I was just going to say I have one small addition, which is if you looked at the number of those that had been sold. And you were the kind of person that just went after that, and you just looked at the numbers of sold, like that you could just you could just dig that gold mine all day, but you choose not to, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking though they were a cracking deal on Black Friday though. That Invicta Pro Diver, I think they were knocking them out at like $70-$75, which for a mechanical watch, it is definitely a Rolex homage. Like there's no way about it, but.
There's one that has the same size crystal as either the Turtle or the SKX, and I picked one up when it was like $59. It was like $60 a couple years ago, and I picked one up because it was like, first of all, an NH35 is already $50.
Yeah.
so like if you buy, or like $48, right? So you're like, then you get the case, the bracelet, the crystal, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh, I could just spend $60 and get the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I bought that. I had that Invicta Pro Diver. It went to somebody on the Facebook groups, a good friend of the show. It went to him eventually, but it was funny because you could buy I bought Rolex specific aluminium inserts for the bezel, and they work. Like they've got the bezel down so it would fit a Rolex. But
that's great.
Anyway,
that's
enough about that. So well, let's kick it off with some news, and we'll have a discussion about the news. This was a story that we've not talked about, Kris, before this show, but I forgot to mention it to you. It's not really watch specific, very loosely watch specific, but have you know the brand The North Face?
Yes.
Do you know who they've just done a collaboration with? They've done an entire collaboration line. It's not a watch company. Well, very loosely not a watch company.
Okay. No, I haven't.
They've just there's a whole range of The North Face have done a collaboration with Gucci.
Oh goodness!
So like it's I meant to talk to you about it before because it kind of popped up. I think it was on one like my watch feeds or something. And it was like Gucci watches, and it was a weird collaboration to do.
So this is North Face with Gucci, but for a watch.
No, it's just
North
on Face gear with Gucci on it.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
So like,
but just because Gucci does do a watch, the fashion watch,
which it loosely brings me on to the next story as well, talking about sort of fashionish brands. But it seems like the boss who was heading up for Richemont Group Montblanc has moved on after 5 years, and they've replaced it with another gentleman who owns his own watch company. He used to head up. He used to be on the vice president of sales for Karl F. Bucherer, but he's actually owns a watch company called Cyrus Watches, which I'd never heard of before. Apparently, it was created in 2010. But he's taken over from Montblanc, and Watch Pro talks about it, but it doesn't really allude to why. And I'm wondering whether it's because Montblanc's. It doesn't have like a standout model, does it? It doesn't have that like go-to model that you think, oh, that is definitely Montblanc. They definitely seem to have been struggling, I think. I don't know what you think about Montblanc watches.
Yeah, they are in the couple of the Swiss Watch Gallery that's in the local mall, and they're carried by some others in other malls, and I've seen them before. But you're absolutely right. I can't. Off the top of my head, I can't think of their quintessential model that they sort of built the brand around. And whenever I see them, I'm like, oh, the pens. And so, in that way, a long time ago, or maybe even to this day, Cartier is known as, for their watches, the Cartier tank. But at one point, it's their jewelry that was really more than their watches. So I do not know more than that.
So I wonder if this will mean that there's going to be some more innovation, because I've just looked up that Cyrus watch company. Actually, they're quite out there. They're quite unique looking watches. So I wonder whether he'll bring a flavor of that to Montblanc, because they're legit. I mean, they bought, I always forget this company. They bought a Swiss watchmaker. So they bought a Swiss watchmaker and then have the watches made there and branded as Montblanc. So they're legit. They're not. It's not like the aforementioned Gucci or any of that rubbish where they're just knocking these Chinese watches out and throwing their name on it.
Yeah,
they are a legit thing. So I wonder whether we'll start seeing something decent coming out of Montblanc, or something not necessarily decent, but something distinctive.
Something distinctive. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm looking right now on their site. Their legacy, their Star Legacy series, very, very handsome dress watch with white dial, moon phase, blued hands kind of thing, for a decent price for the luxury mechanical Swiss watch for $2,600. That's on their website. That seems three-hander with the date seems completely reasonable. But yeah, I think that's kind of their challenge, is to break out into maybe some piece that they're known for. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then next story is Watch Pro did a very interesting interview with Ben from Hodinkee. It was very well done, but you've got to go onto Watch Pro to look at it just for the photo that's at the top of the article. This is the photo. This is a perfect photo of somebody that's just sat there like, yeah, I'm making you pay a lot for limited edition watches. It's this, I might call it a smug charm about it. And I mean, of course, I'm only jealous that Hodinkee are worth so much, and it's
I know that you could grab anything and post it online and make as much money. You could grab any $40 Casio watch and make that much money.
Exactly. So he's got like you noticed it, didn't you? He's got a shirt, like a jumper on a sports coat, and a little pocket square there.
Right. Yes, his inheritance is safe.
Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting article actually. They've interviewed him, and it's amazing that Hodinkee only started in 2008.
Yeah,
and that seems like yesterday.
I feel like that's sort of when it, I mean, for as much as they are innovative and certainly driving the hobby, if you will. It's definitely a right place at right time. I mean, I'm sure whoever. If you started a company, 2 years after vinyl records started to become collectible and listened to again, I'm sure you'd benefit from that bounce. And also rightful. I mean, they put a lot of work into it. So. And
he says that one of the interesting things is he says that they've always been profitable from like day one. They've been profitable. So I imagine it was because I remember day one, it must have been advertising on the site or advertorials that they were doing, because they were only selling sort of pre-owned watches, weren't they? Like their unique finds. And I always wondered how they could get away with, they were obviously tripling or quadrupling their money that they were buying these watches for. I think just because the photographs were so good, and they had a little story about each of the watches as well, which added to the provenance. Yeah.
I think if they, I think their medium there to, and I hear a little bit of this, when Federico talks about watch dealers and sort of like the inside of the watch trade. You think about like who's getting a hold of these vintage whatever, but I think they were getting a hold of them through, a wholesale dealer at wholesale prices, and then absolutely marketing the hell out of them, which is their right to do, and they did well to build a story around them, because I think they nailed it. I think they understand that like this is an emotionally attached thing, that there are stories around that they can they can build that up, and then sell them for a decent profit. And so good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely when you're talking about luxury watches, which is basically anything over a $15 Casio, the story is definitely part of it, isn't it? For sure.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Well, anyway, speaking of stories, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Of course, the new Omega Speedmaster has been released.
Was that Sam? Was that the watch they wore on the moon? I'm sorry. I almost made it.
The new 3861 moon watch, which has got the new caliber 3861 movement in it, which is a coaxial movement anti-magnetic. It's a significant movement upgrade. The watch itself doesn't look cosmetically different, except the new bracelet. Of course, it's got a very distinctive new bracelet, but they're knocking this bad boy out at like $6,300. So I mean, that's at least a $1,000 increase on.
Yeah, but from everyone I've heard say, like, go ahead and ask for a discount. Go ahead and do that. You can't do that at every dealership, but but maybe you can.
Well, maybe. I mean, they're sold out on Omega's website. Like, so I don't know. They're offering. They offer it also cheaper if you get it on a fabric strap. But why would you?
No. I like the new bracelet. Looks good. Reminds me of the X33.
Yes.
which other watch obsession I saw one go for I think 2,800, but it was very scratched up. It was super scratched. I was like, holy crap, $2,800. Clicked on it and I was like, oof, you drag that across a chain link fence.
Oh yeah,
it was
all those ones
rough.
that have been in motorbike accidents that you sometimes see those watches.
Right, yeah, it wasn't that bad, but it was definitely like under a 10x loop. It looked like it had a motorcycle accident, but I like I like the bracelet. I had not seen the white dial, and I just saw the white dial for the first time today. I think that looks pretty sharp. I like that.
Yeah. Do you know what I can't work out as well on? Oh, so it's 6,300 with a Hesalite glass, but the sapphire is $7,150.
Yeah.
Wow.
I see that.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Wow.
So
what sapphire upgraded crystal.
So what could you buy for $7,150? I think we did that podcast.
We did last one, with the Daytonas. Right. But yeah, you're totally right. Yeah. Wowzers.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit very comfortably with me. That because that crystal. It's got a sapphire. Okay, it's got a sapphire on the back. You can see the movement, so it's similar to how mine looked.
Right.
But yeah.
All right. So you're paying. All right. I mean, it's now wait. Also, though, that's the different movement, though. So the three. Okay. So the 3861 steel with the closed face back is $6,300.
Mm-hmm.
With the Hesalite crystal, with the open case back, with the sapphire sandwich, $7,150. Yep. So at first I was thinking they were charging $2,000 for sapphire, when in fact they are charging $1,150 for sapphire.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Because those sapphires are, they're nowhere near that expensive.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't get one. I can't. I mean, I'm not a Moonwatch purist. I can't get the plastic Hesalite. I can't get the. It had. I mean, I get it. I understand it from an engineering standpoint, but, it's one of those things that. Yeah, I know. I would feel bad when I ruined it.
Yeah.
I'd be out with a buffer and a polishing wheel making that thing spotless all the time, and it would frustrate me.
Yeah, so. I know. And we've talked about this countless times on the show before. The Speedmaster Moonwatch is the Moonwatch because it was an affordable luxury watch that could take a beating. It wasn't the Moonwatch because one day it was going to be knocked out at over $7,000. I mean, NASA would never have paid $7,000 a piece for for a watch.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I looked into it. I'm surprised that they still, for new astronauts, I think it's a wholesale price that's basically half. It's like a 50% price of whatever this is for astronauts. I wonder if this is going to be still true for the new models, but yeah, I mean, if you go back into the 60s, early 70s, that's right. We kind of know it's the same story that we have for the early military watches that Hamilton was cost them approximately $23 to make, and such they were purchased by the military because they needed accurate watches. They needed a model for this. So. Yeah, they are. There's a big premium there on the first watch on the moon for sure, which I get. But also I definitely want to say what else I could get for $7,150. I'd go find something decently in good shape. If I really wanted a Speedmaster, I'd go find something that was in a decent shape, used. That was something striking to me, something that I liked. Like maybe you could find.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to actually look for, because I paid $800 to get mine serviced, and it came back like it was brand new. So if you mine was really beaten up.
Right.
Because I'd worn it for however many years.
You spent $800, and yes, that's not a small chunk of change, but if you look at what they did, I mean, they did hands, they did a whole bunch of parts, hard parts.
Exactly, and they got it working within a 4-second variance.
Great.
So I mean that's something that surprised me actually, that you could get a fairly beaten up Speedmaster.
Yeah, that's actually that might be a good tip. You might go on eBay. Find a beaten up one, knowing it. Put $1,000 in the back of your mind. Put $1,000 in the back of your mind. Find one that's got some some scratches and has been knocked around a little bit, whatever, but mechanically working, and then just buy it and then send it to Omega. And then your $2,200 watch that you bought on a deal on eBay, or comes back and is now probably worth more than what you paid for it.
Exactly. Well, let's pause for a very quick ad break, and then when we come back, I'm going to take a few deep breaths because I'm definitely going to be having a rant about a very popular watch brand and a very popular very popular film that's just come out. So we'll just pause for a very quick ad break.
Hey, it's Chris from the Casual Watch Talk podcast. As our longtime listeners know, we often talk about cars here on the pod, and that's no coincidence. Like a lot of mechanical watch lovers, we're both into cars and racing. A couple years ago, I curated a collection of automotive-inspired straps and started the Campionato Club. Campionato Club watch straps celebrate the rich history of automotive liveries with their inspired colors. Available in a single-pass NATO, two-piece, and our new super comfy elastic NATO. Check out Campionato Club on the web. That's championship in Italian, CAMPIONATO.club.
Hi everyone, welcome back. So, as promised before the ad break, I do have a little bit of a rant that I wanted to go through. But Chris, first off, have you seen? This is what this rant's going to be about. Have you seen the new Tenet film?
I have not seen the film.
So I watched it on a couple of little caveats here. I watched it on the plane when I was flying to Florida the other day. So I watched it on an iPad. It's very visual film. It's the story is one of those where it's quite complex, the idea of the story, but they do explain it where it's fairly straightforward. Without giving too much of away, it's pitched as a time travel film, but it isn't really a time travel film. It's got a very interesting premise to it, where so you have to watch it. I was going in there thinking it was a Men in Black type of thing, where
but this is a Christopher Nolan film, directed
film. Yeah, so of course, with all Christopher Nolan films, we get a Hamilton watch, and this is what the rant is about. So they have the watch in the film is the Below Zero watch. Now we've seen this in films before. This was the watch that was in The Martian as well.
Is it the 1-to-1, the Below Zero? It is like the same watch, or is it very similar?
I'm sure it's a 1-to-1. I mean, if not, they are very, very similar. It's got that distinctive sort of 4 hexagonal screws. In fact, it looks more like a G-Shock than it does a Hamilton if G-Shock just made a pure analog watch.
Nope. I just pulled them up side by side. Yep, that's the same watch.
Yeah, and then I don't actually. If you're looking at the Martian one, does that have the distinctive 0 at the top instead of 12?
Yep.
Yeah. So
0 on top, and then the same. It looks like the same. Yeah, it looks like the same screws around it. The Martian has the date.
Right. Okay. So this doesn't have the date, and this is the thing that's annoying about this. So you can, I think, in the trailer you can see this watch. There's certainly photographs online, but in the watch, because time is the whole film is based on time. So the actual build up to you seeing the watch as a watch fan, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing, this watch, because the whole film is based on time. Anyway, he gets given this Below Zero watch, and in fact, it's not just him. There is many. I won't give away too much of the plot, but there's a few people that wear this, like a version of this watch. It's not just like similar to like Interstellar, where or the Murph watch was just like one-off watch. And,
I see, right. It's like so this is like the team.
Yes.
I didn't see the movie, but
this
just
is their team that wears this watch. Anyway,
yeah.
The thing that makes it distinctive about it in the film is it has a two digital displays along the center. So it's out like my Breitling B1 that has the Ani Digi, and it's very distinctive. And in fact, the watch is so integral to the film. The analog digital part is so integral to the film that the fact that they've not made the watch like the film watch, they might as well have just not bothered, because they've released it just in a mechanical version. They've just rebranded the Martian watch, called it the Tenant watch. Obviously, like you mentioned, took the date off it. But the fact that it doesn't have this analog digital display, they might as well have not done it, because that analog digital display, it's not just a watch that like flashes up on the screen or is always seen. It actually has a real function to the narrative of the film, and it's not just like the Mirth watch where it was narrative important, but it was only shown once. I mean, this watch for the third act of this film, this watch is like a significant part of the film, and I just can't understand why they didn't make it the way it was. I'm like really disappointed that they didn't do it, just because it's so important to the film, this watch, and the way that it has the analog digital. So I'm looking. There is some super close up pictures of the prop watch and how it was built. And I'm looking at a super close up, and so if they, and this is, my watch making speculation, if they had an LCD crystal with a hole in it, which that's completely doable, round liquid crystal display with a hole in it for the hands, okay, and then they did a blue or red backlight. So they did an inverse display, like your blacked out G-Shock. And they had a blue or red backlight. That's how you get this effect. And it doesn't seem, I mean, I feel like Hamilton, you could have built a quartz and would have been, everyone would have loved you. I would have, I think would have been super cool. But did they stick with the mechanical? Yep, they stuck with the mechanical. You're totally right. And there's also that trend for putting those bright red LED watches, isn't there? Like Yema's just done one, which I can't say that they pulled off very well, but Hamilton did that one, that Pulsar. So they've got like the technology there. Also, who else did it as well? Bolivar did their Computertron watch. So that fashion for having that LCD display that's almost like a vivid LED, like a vivid red LED.
Right.
Or there's also and I try not to give away too much of the plot here, but there's also like a blue one where it would be blue as well. It would flash blue.
Yeah.
It looks awesome in the film. Like I was straight away, I was like, oh my god, if this is a real thing, I would have to actually get that.
I have to have it. Yeah. No, it's too bad. I'm there's a bunch of articles on how they did it. I'm looking at the actual prop. It looks like it was built by a separate company that did the prop, and it sort of requires some additional power in order to do it. Very similar to, it looks to me very similar to do you know the stopwatches in Back to the Future? So they had I think it was a Seiko and I'll be crucified for this on my nerd podcast, but they had two, I think one of them was a Seiko, but two stopwatches that were just your basic black and white, regular LCD stopwatches, and the prop makers had gone in and actually changed them to be red LEDs in order so that he can hold up the two watches and do the very famous, Einstein's watch is exactly 5 minutes behind mine and still ticking. That scene, there's a set of props that did that. So it looks very similar in the same way where they kind of gutted the watch, they gutted the stopwatch, if you will, and then put the display in.
Yeah, because the hands of the watch, I mean, first of all, you can't bloody see them because the hands are black and the watch is black and the numbers are in grey. I mean, this thing, it's you can't see it anyway, but the fact that the red countdown timer is so vivid on the watch, it completes the look of the watch, because you're like, okay, well, I could maybe get away with not being able to see the watch hands properly if I had the time and then maybe the date at the top on this LCD. And you could even do it where it was maybe button activated if there was a battery concern, or like you said, your way with doing the inverse LCD display instead of LED. But it was they could have worked it out, is what the point of it is.
Yeah, right. I feel like the technology was on the table, and Hamilton, they're so good with their props, and I feel like with the Murph watch, they came out with the first one, and the pilot watch that they did for that movie. Right. And everybody wanted the Murph watch, and they were just like nonstop. They kind of hammered Hamilton, and they're just like, you have to make the Murph. And to their credit, they made it, but they made it 1-to-1. And it's a movie. It's a movie, and that one of the characters is that watch. So the thing's like 42 millimeters. So everyone's like, get all mad that it was huge. And you're like, well, it doesn't look huge in the movie. And you're like, right, but they made it the prop. And then here you have the opposite problem where they're like, you need to make this watch exactly like the prop. And they're like, we can't do that.
Yeah, it would definitely be, to your point, it would definitely be more technically difficult to make this watch a reality. It's not like, they could just make the case and throw the standard ETA in like they did with the watch, but it just it's a shame because there was almost a point of they should just left it as a prop watch instead of like trying to cash in and rebadging.
Right. Over something that they could never.
Because the LCD, the LED display on these watches is so integral to the film.
Right.
That it's not just a side character, or it's similar to that kind of the Seiko that they had in Commando, where they basically like gutted the Seiko Arnie and put like a weird like countdown display on it. It looks like no Seiko that was ever made.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, that's an integral part of the film, isn't it? Because he's watching the countdown all the time, and it's similar to.
Yeah.
So you'll have to watch 10, and it's definitely worth a watch. In fact, I was watching a review where they say actually you've got to watch it a couple of times because there's other things that will come to fruition in it.
Yeah, and there'll be a Christopher Nolan like story inside the story kind of thing going on for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting film. It didn't blow me away. Same with Interstellar, where I liked watching Interstellar, but it's not one I would probably watch a second time. Whereas Tenet, I probably would watch it again.
I see.
But he uses time like in Inception and things like that as well. So that's how integral the watch is to that. So that was my little rant. It was a shame to have a Hamilton in a movie and then not really make the watch.
Yeah. Yep. And I think the technology is available. I think they would have to put some R&D into it and they'd have to really put some money into it, and I don't know if corporate was ready to sign off on that one. So instead, they went with red or blue-tipped hands.
Yeah, so and it's
kind of
it's
a
not
letdown
right
there.
if you've seen the film, and it's but they've been hyping this film. It's not like it was a flew under the radar, was it? This was the only film. Was it one of the only films to be released in the cinema or something? With the pandemic, it was.
It was. Something like that. I mean, I feel like it either not, I don't want to say benefited from, but I mean, sort of like the fact that nothing else was out, and then the fact that it was the only thing out. It's certainly had its share. I mean, I saw posters and stuff for it everywhere. So it certainly had its share of advertising.
Well, they had. I watched another. I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen the new Wonder Woman yet? The Wonder Woman 19.
I have not, based on recommendations.
It's just awful. It is just awful. Honestly, it's like.
Oh goodness.
They basically forgot that they made an awesome first one, I think, and then
right. But the first one was awesome. I definitely agree.
Yeah, but the if you want the movie watch from that, then it's just the steel Casio, the $40 standard Casio. Yeah. So if you want that, and then also they've got the guy's original World War I watch, which was like a pocket watch, but he had the strap that made it a watch strap. So she's still holding on to that. But the rest of the film is like, it was like, what? Whose day off was it that they wrote the film the way that they did? Because it just doesn't. It doesn't do the character justice. Or anyway, well, that's all I had for this week. Kris, did you have anything you wanted to talk, or any little rants you had about movie
I don't know. Yeah, I just opened the floor. No, the last thing I wanted to mention was I just, as a quick update before we go, I think I fixed the Walbrook. So Sam and I had a quick conversation after the pod last time, and I kind of got convinced that maybe it was magnetized, and so then I went over and checked it with a compass. I've got a Boy Scout liquid crystal compass that I've had forever that does a better job than putting a phone over it. Although the phone app's kind of pretty good, but I'm also frightened about like all the magnets and stuff that are in phones. Anyway, so yeah, it looked like it was magnetized. Hit it with a demagnetizer, one of those like $19 ones you can get on Amazon. There has to be 5 different how to demagnetize a watch YouTube, so it basically followed those instructions to slowly pull the watch away from the demagnetizer while it's running a couple of times in a couple of different directions. Threw it on the time grapher, zeroed out.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
I sent Sam a text about 15 minutes later with a thing just running dial up at 0. I was like, oh, okay.
I'm like, don't put the quartz in it. Don't listen to me if I ever tell you to mod one of my watches again.
Wave off. Yeah, and then I asked like if you had like had an MRI recently, or what kind of crazy electromagnetic disturbances have been.
Yeah, I think
working for some military contract.
Well, exactly. I think I just and Kris TJ was telling me that he magnetizes his stover all the time, just off iPads and his phone and stuff like that. So I can only think it was something like that. But I'm definitely going to buy a demagnetizer now, because I'd never really. I don't know whether. Before I'd bought one similar to your one, and I could never get it to work, because you don't know that it's worked unless you've got a time grapher, do you really? I think you're
right. Yeah. And also, and to your credit, I feel like it's one of those things that first comes up in my watch is doing X, my mechanical watch is doing X, and I'm worried about it. It's always like the third post is all, you magnetize it, and you're like, right, but it can't be the answer to everything. So I took it with a grain of salt, like maybe it's magnetized, but I don't know, we'll find out. And that's the only real way to like directly check is see that it's running like crap on a time grapher, demagnetize it, put it back on the time grapher, see it zero out. You're like, okay, that's what it was.
It's funny that, isn't it? That's maybe one thing that new collectors of mechanical watches don't realize about the magnetization of watches.
Yeah. I think people, it's, it's very similar to waterproof. There are people that will worry about it too much, but it's definitely something to worry about. Like if you have I have a winter jacket that has a lot of the magnet snaps on it. And I think to myself like, oh, what watch was I wearing when I had the winter jacket on? I was like, oosh. So a second guess, definitely keep it in the back of your mind. But yeah, for new watch folks, if all of a sudden the thing starts losing 45 seconds a day, and or if it's just not consistent. And the other thing that I would try if your watch is not consistent sometimes, and this movement I noticed as well, it takes a good, if your watch is partially wound, so that let's say it's 5 winds out of a possible 70, right? If if you're in that state, that low spring state, I've seen watches act absolutely weird, up, down, back and forth, like rotate it, turn it sideways on the time grapher, dial up, dial down. It'll be like plus 15, minus 7. I'll turn it over. It'll be minus 4. It'll be plus 7. I'm just all over the place.
Is that because of the torque on there?
Yeah, it's because there's just not enough tension on the spring to keep the thing running accurately. And so what I say is give it a full wind. So on most watches, I mean, put at least 20 thumb turns into it. If it's an automatic watch, you can't overwind an automatic watch because it has a clutch in it. You don't want to be winding an automatic watch obsessively, but put 20 or 30 winds into it and then wear it and see if it keeps better time. Because it might just be with our sedentary lifestyle these days, which my wife actually had her Stova the other day that was that just stopped, and it was basically on her wrist. And I was like, well, what did you do today? And she's like, I was at my desk. And then, I went out and made some lunch. I was like, well, that's clearly not enough activity to keep it wound. And so if it's in that low state, even just a little bit of movement is not enough to actually keep it running. So some good last minute New Year watch advice.
Final words. Chris's final words.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, as always, we really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you all next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.